I'm going to bring in Hugo on this. Hugo, just a week ago, we looked at remote work was more just a mere benefit. Overnight, now it's turned into a business imperative where companies are led to, someone who's led a company that has been completely remote reliant. How do you see the future of remote software development and remote software engineers play in a post-COVID world?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jonathan, and also thanks for having me. Great to be here and to have this relevant discussion through this medium. Yeah, to get to your question, I think that some of the topics have already been touched by Bani and Sanjeewa. What I see from my perspective is that in the last 10 to 15 years, the role of software developers has already changed rapidly, right? I think it's one of the most dynamic fields to be in at the moment. And every time I speak with CEOs and CTOs, I basically see four major trends. I think that first of all, the need for speed, right? So everything needs to go faster. Agile was introduced, of course, and in order to create a better feedback cycle between developers and users. The need for training, right? So we see that many platforms come up and then go down, and there's sort of like this technology trend where sometimes one platform is hot and then suddenly the other platform is even better and more sexy also for developers and companies to use. So I think that constant need of training is also there. Then you have the need for software testing, right? So I think testing and coding used to be two different things. I think now when you look at a software developer that is serious about his or her job, it's not only about committing code anymore, it's also about committing tests. And I think the last trend that we see is the evolution of responsibilities. And with this, I mean that looking at how the role of developers and also the different type of developers that you kind of have nowadays has changed. I think the best example is probably DevOps, is where you basically have people that are taking a developer role and that have a really critical position within the enterprise, because they are basically own the availability and sustainability of the customer experience, right? So they are the ones keeping in check if people can order products, if people can use the product online, etc., etc. So I think, in general, when it comes to the question, I think that what is expected from them, I think really high level CEO, he wants speed, right? So he doesn't really care how. The CTO wants quality. Sometimes that is in conflict with the CEO's demand for speed. And then the CPO comes in and he knows that there's more to it. So what he is basically working at is basically installing new agile programs, such as extreme programming, such as DevOps, in order to help him achieve business goals together with the CTO and the CEO. Right, so you really see this trend of new programs that are constantly being installed by the management in order to make their engineering departments more effective. And I think that post-COVID, these trends are just going to go much faster. And I think that the big advantage right now is that it didn't really matter if you had on-site or offshore engineering teams before, because I think it was for both teams essential to have all these types of programs, these new rules, and all these, and also these four trends to take into account. But I think right now, and I think that that's also the big opportunity that I see, and that's also why I'm really happy with these type of webinars and the audience listening in right now, is that we finally come to a moment where the big advantage for companies such as Gapstars, such as Pearson Lanka, and also Sri Lanka in general, is that the CTOs and CPOs in countries where we have a big part of our client base, such as the EU and the US, they no longer have the argument basically to say, hey, I want to build teams on premise, right? I want to have these guys sitting side by side because I think that's important for the quality and the speed and the delivery of my software, because it's just no longer an argument, right? We're in a different phase now. We're in a different world. So I see a very bright future basically for the IT industry, and I think that if you take into account these trends as a developer and understand that, hey, this is what is needed, I need to go fast. I need to train myself in new technologies. I need to, stay ahead of the game, and I need to make sure that my code is always combined with at least a strategy on how to test the quality of it. I think that then you are really doing well, and then you should also not worry too much, because I think that there is definitely a place for you in the post-COVID world.